Okay, so then, are you on there?
No, let me tell.
Yeah.
I gotta hang up. Hang up.
Okay.
I see your screen.
You see it?
Yeah. Well, it's not in presentation mode though. You know that, right?
Yes. Let's see. Okay, so now?
Yep.
But I shouldn't probably do the share screen, right, until everyone's joined?
Oh yeah, I guess so. Because you want people to see your face, so they can walk on you. Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay. So
Sorry, that just means you have to admit, like you have to admit people in, though. Is that okay?
we'll make it work. That's fine. Okay. So Zaria?
Yep, Zaria.
Zaria? She's on here. Go ahead and admit her.
Yep.
All right.
Hi, Zaria.
Hi.
It's Christine. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How's fireworks season going?
Ready for it to be over. How's your summer?
It is in limbo because I'm still working remotely, so it's like kind of in limbo. I'm like, I really want to go to the beach or go
I
to
feel that.
some water or something.
Yes.
Yeah.
Especially they just said that our classes will be online, but they'll allow us back on campus. So I'm like,
You like vacation? Vacation? Are you taking summer classes or are you talking about your fall classes?
no, from my fall classes.
Oh wow! They already decided that all the classes are going to be on. Wow.
Well, some of our classes, like the ones that are like 20 people, will be like in session, but the ones that are like lectures, like 500 plus, yeah, those will be online.
Oh yeah, like Psychology 101 and stuff like that. Oh my God, I remember my first 450 person class like that, Psychology 101. Do they still use those clickers?
Yeah, we use clickers.
Oh, Caitlin, you remember clickers?
Yep, and I remember my Psychology 101 in the assembly.
Yes, in the library.
Yeah. We probably could have been in the same class and had no idea.
No idea. That class is so boring.
It was awful. That's why I didn't go into psych after that one.
I know.
Oh, really? I love psych. That's my major.
Really?
Yeah, I just find it interesting, but also I will say the teacher is a difference.
Yep.
Correct.
That is so true. Well, I did social work and criminal justice, but I definitely thought when I entered I was going to do psych and criminal justice. And then after 101, like you said, the teacher can make or break it. My teacher for soc was awesome, and psych wasn't quite there. So,
yes.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm the same way. I'm psych with a minor in Spanish and criminal justice.
All right.
Nice. What you want to do with your degree?
I'm going to law school like right after, so law.
All right.
Nice. Are you in your junior year or senior year? I can't remember.
I'm in my junior year.
Nice.
Very cool. Do you know what law school you want to go to? Oh.
No, I just wanted to be like a top 14 though, so maybe like UC Berkeley or WashU. I'm not for sure yet.
Very cool. Berkeley was my dream school for grad school, so I hear you there.
Yeah, but I don't even want to go to it because somebody said it. I have to do more research.
Yeah.
It's a good school, that's for sure. Very good school. A cool area of town.
Are you doing? Do you have to do internship for your majors, Aria?
I don't. No, I don't have to do an internship.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, but
Christian?
like I'm still trying to get some.
Nice. What kind of law? What kind of law do you want to do?
Well, at first I wanted to do like human rights, criminal like justice and stuff like that, but just mainly focusing on like how the system is kind of it's racist or just it doesn't really help like minorities, and that was like my focus. So definitely like civil rights and human rights and stuff like that. But with everything that's going on, I don't really know. I'm thinking of more public policy now. So
Public policy is that's what's up. I like public policy, like MPH. You know, in Philly, we have this program that's like a MPH/JD program. I'm sure it's pretty interesting at one of our universities.
and use MPH or
Masters in Public Health and like a JD program. I think it's like through this university called Temple University here. Let me look it up. But yeah, it's like a combination. Yeah. Let me see.
yeah, that's what I hope to get my master's and my GAD at the same time.
Yeah. Temple University. MP.
Yeah, they have that same dual at Florida International, so it's definitely a popular one.
Okay, so I was like, am I making this up? Yep. Well, if you want, there's one in Florida too. I'm gonna go to Florida.
I'll definitely have to look into it.
Yep, it's a JD MPH program, Temple University. Let me send you the link in the chat. Copy link. But I feel like they really definitely complement each other, those two majors.
Yeah, especially since like a lot of stuff you really can figure out why people do the things they do from psychology.
Oh,
like,
absolutely. Chat. I just sent it to you.
Oh, thank you. Got it. I'm gonna copy
And
it down.
I think it would be cool too to like do policy, go to school surrounding like health disparities around like people that look like us. Like I went to this march on Saturday and they were talking about how like women, like Black women, and like their just experience with the reproductive process and like doctors not acknowledging their pain or not taking their pain serious, and there's just been so much research behind it. Like, and so I think that's like a cool combination too. Like
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, definitely. Like I talk about that a lot with like a lot of my classes and stuff. Like with my friends, because a lot of them are like health science majors, and like that's the scariest part. Like in one of my classes, they actually did a study on hospitals and like certain hospitals not to go to if you were Black, and I was just like, man, it's so scary how my skin color won't allow you to treat me properly, and I could possibly die because of it.
Mm-hmm. I heard some horror stories this weekend and like about like women who like went into the hospital for one thing and like literally like complained and like the doctors didn't take their pain serious, or they hurry up and gave them like narcotic and like was like, okay, bye kind of thing. And then it's just really sad. So I don't know if you noticed or not, but I work with people who live with like HIV and AIDS. That's my 9 to 5. And it's so crazy because I feel like there's so many of my clients, like my African American female clients, who like are actively like taking pain meds. And I wonder if it's because like the doctor just like hurried up, like it just gave them something so they could like get out the office, or what. But it's like really sad.
Yeah. That is sad.
Hi, Jasmine. Oh, Jasmine, you muted.
Hi, Christine.
Hi, Jazz. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm well. Are y'all in yellow right now? On what phase y'all on right now?
They didn't do ours by color. They just did 3 different phases, and our final one was like 2 Mondays ago.
Oh, okay, so y'all all back to normal. Quote
As
unquote.
normal as can be, yeah.
Right. True. Yeah. In Philly, in Pennsylvania, they did it by colors, so we're currently in yellow.
And how far along is that?
That's the second phase.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and so they're trying to see what's going on. So like technically this was my job's first week of like having us go to work 1 day a week. And
Oh, okay. Yeah, we still don't go back into the office yet. I know like Jazz, the other Jasmine, she doesn't go back to July. And my office, they haven't even put like a plan in place for us to go back. So we're still working from home.
Oh, okay. I mean, it's bittersweet working from home. It's really bittersweet.
Yeah, sometimes.
Yeah. Well, welcome everyone. Christina, do you want me to get started? You want me to wait a few more minutes? Christina, your phone on mute. I'm guessing this is her OnePlus 7 Pro. I feel like that's her phone. Christina?
She's dealing with a customer, but she said you guys can get started.
Okay, cool. Well, welcome, ladies. This is part 2 of our employment seminar with Caitlin Alfonso. This week we're going to be talking about cover letters. And so without further ado, Caitlin Alfonso.
Hi, everybody. Well, Christine jumped ahead. Cover letters is actually on Friday,
Monday.
but we're gonna get there, I promise. So I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen with you guys, and let's see. All right, so I really appreciate you guys jumping on today. I know and appreciate your flexibility. We were going to meet on Friday, but obviously in observance of Juneteenth, we switched it to today. So thank you so much. We're going to be building on a lot of what we talked about last week and focusing a lot on pitfalls and how to kind of swerve and avoid them. So that's the focus. But before... There we go. So review from last week real quick. We just kind of refresh. We picked, we covered how to pick a format, remembering the reverse chronological, the functional combined. This is why you review. There's a grammar mistake. So there you go, guys. Proves that not everyone's perfect. And the do's and the don'ts. And also, there was a really good question at the end, and I know it applied to a couple of people about, if I work for my family business, can I list that on a resume? And I know that we spent a little bit of time, but I wanted to just throw up a little visual to kind of recap that. And just some things to consider if you're going to put that on your resume. Make sure that it's a legitimate business, and so that if it's registered in that state that you're working in, so that people can, search it, or if there's questions about it, they can follow up. You want to, if you are doing tasks like other employees are, instead of like you're going in as a favor or going in for a couple of hours and covering, like then that maybe isn't the best type of job to be including, because that's going to show in an interview that it was more of you helping your family versus employment of that nature. So again, asking, would someone need to be hired to replace you? And usually you're going to get through, like, it's not going to be a big deal on your resume, but again, it's one of those things that you just really want to be prepared to answer any questions additional to it if they do go more in detail to your ties to that family business. And you don't necessarily draw attention or apologize. Work is work, and so if it's tied to your family, that's totally fine. You just want to make sure that kind of checks off some of those key things. So without further ado, let's go ahead. We're going to talk about spelling and grammar errors. That's the mistake number 1 on here. As Christina had put up on Instagram, 77% of resumes are just put in the note pile because of spelling and grammar and punctuation errors. It is really, really easy to go from a yes or a maybe to an automatic no if there's any spelling and grammar punctuation mistakes. So The reason for that is, just as a reminder, you have 5 to 7 seconds to impress the person reading your resume, which means they are looking for the smallest of things to quickly go on to the next person. So errors when it comes to punctuation, grammar, kind of like plants those seeds, like, this person clearly isn't detail oriented. They don't want this enough. They're lazy. You know, they're, clearly they're not writing well, things of that nature. So just kind of be mindful of that, and just understand why it's so important, because it's heavily tied to your first impressions. And so I love this. Just because there is not a line under it does not mean it's right. If you put this into Microsoft Word, nothing would show up. There wouldn't be any squiggly lines under it. It wouldn't be flagged, because technically nothing's misspelled, technically. But we know that obviously this is very wrong. So keep that in mind. You can't rely solely on Microsoft Word to catch your errors. So we need to be focusing in on what are common mistakes that we're looking for, so we know what we're kind of reading through our resumes and trying to catch. Capitalization errors, misuse of commas, misspellings or run-on sentences, so your punctuation. Tenses is a really big one, and misuse of homophones. And don't worry if you haven't covered or remember homophones from second grade. We're going to go over that in a little bit. So let's break it down. Common mistakes. So take a second, look over this sentence, and try to catch some of the errors here. So, advocated for policy changes in the metropolitan area of downtown Laketon. We've got some errors. Make sure there's no one else in there. Does anyone want to throw up in the chat what you're seeing, or shout out? What's a mistake you're seeing so far? Anyone brave? All right. So right away, we've got Ford. All right. So obviously there's a misspelling with that. And hold on, guys. I am going to turn off my phone because it just keeps going off. And I don't know if you guys can see it, but it's synced with my computer, so I don't want it to be bothering anybody else, if you can. So back to the sentence. Advocated for policy changes. So Ford is clearly spelled incorrectly. Also, you're going to see metropolitan area, downtown. None of those are proper nouns. They do not need to be capitalized. And technically, you've got another mistake. If you caught this, fantastic. You don't necessarily need to have the, depending on how you restructure the sentence. So the words the and that are filler words. They're really easy for us to just put into a sentence, and they take up space. Think of space on your resume as very expensive real estate. You've got a lot to fit in there, so you don't even want to be wasting any time with extra words. So if you restructure the sentence, advocated for policy changes in downtown Laketon, you lose the, you save some space and you condense it. Downtown does not need to be capitalized, and you've corrected Ford into 4. Another common mistake. So if these are 2 bullets that were listed, spearheaded team of 25, teach training courses biweekly to new hires. What might this be right here? Give you a second to kind of think that over. All right. So if you thought spearheaded was past tense and teach is present tense, then you are right. This is a tense mistake. You want to keep your tenses either all present tense or all past tense. Switching in between tenses is really difficult for the reader to follow along, and you want to keep their eyes on your resume for as many seconds as you possibly can. So paying attention to tense is important. For your homophone review, these are just their typical words like your, you are. So your resume versus you are late. The whole there, and there. So over there, their office building, they're early. Just so making sure that we're not switching those words around and putting the incorrect word where another one should be. So they're the words that sound the same but are spelled differently and have different meanings. And so mistake number 2, making a generic resume. We know that one size does not fit all, and it doesn't work for resumes either. Your resumes really, really need to be customized to the job that you're searching for. So when we're talking about customizing, this is where we dig in even deeper to language and the types of word choices. Last week, we brushed onto that, but we didn't delve in real deep into it. And this is the part where we want to talk about customizing your resume to make sure that you are focused in on your, the language is mirroring the job that you are doing. Christine, if anyone texts you, I'm sorry guys. I'm on the host today spot, but I'm kind of not the best at multitasking. This is new, so I apologize. If anyone does need to get in, it should pop up, I believe, but just let me know otherwise if you get notice that someone is in this waiting room. My apologies. So
Okay, I haven't heard anything.
Okay, I'm just a little bit nervous since I'm the one that's I'm trying to look for some for if it's gonna pop up and let me know. So I know anyway. So sorry for being a little distracted, guys. But language. Make sure that your word choice mirrors the job posting that you are interested in. You want to pay attention to the words that you're using and try to incorporate them into your resume. These are what we refer to as your keywords, and you want to use as many of them as you can. The other advantage of making sure that your language mirrors the language in the actual job posting is because, like we talked about last week, a lot of people rely on software. And so the software is set to pick up, is this person qualified to get through the first round? And it's picking up on the language that's in your resume. So the closer you are to the language it's searching for, the more likely you're going to get through that step into the actual person's hand. With that, thank you. So the other thing with customizing is you want to make sure that you're focusing in on your skills, not your duties. And what I mean by that, we're going to do this little example right here. If you were, say, a recreation leader, all right, we've got your duties versus your resume that highlights your skills. So if you are writing a resume and you are focused in on what you did, what your job required, it would look like watch kids in a classroom, keep children safe, keep kids on schedule. Those are your duties. That's what you were expected to do. That doesn't tell me anything about what your capabilities are. So say someone else, same exact job, but they're focused on their skills. Facilitate a group of 5 to 10 children, ages 7 to 10, in age-appropriate activities as outlined by curriculum. Met and maintain standards of safety at all times, and transition children between activities in positive and effective manner. Okay? Highlighting skills tells me that not only gives me an idea of what you were expected to do with duties, but it gives me an idea of what your skill level is. So there's a couple things that happen here. And so 5 to 10 children, ages 7 to 10, adding numbers, quantifying your bullets is important. We're going to delve into that in a little bit. Another nice thing that this individual did was they put maintain standard of safety. this is likely wording that was used in the actual job application. So again, that's an example of mirroring language. And the last thing is this word transitioned. This is what we would call an example of an action verb. Again, we're going to get into that, but pay attention as we go through these examples and see if you can start seeing where some of these skills are woven into other examples. When we're talking about customizing, now I know there's a lot on this page, so we're going to break it down. But let's say that you have been a server for 5 years at a restaurant, and your duties that you did, so what you were responsible for was to provide service to multiple tables at a time. You had to understand the menu, be able to answer customer questions and handle customer complaints, and work as part of a team. That's just a little snapshot. You aren't going to be able to change your past experience. You don't necessarily have to, but you can customize it for the job that you are applying for. Again, you're not lying, you're not exaggerating, but you want to customize the experience that job is looking for and connect it to the experience that you have. So if you look over on this right-hand side where it says applying for human resources, so this position right here, you might focus in, okay, human resources position, might need like attention to detail, be able to handle customer complaints and questions on a regular basis. And so you might focus in on saying, as a server, you had the skill set to maintain high level of service when answering customer questions and complaints, and work collaboratively as part of a team to best serve the needs of customers. So you're focusing in on those two skill sets based off of your duties that you had. Now, same job position though, say you want to apply for something in the healthcare position. So healthcare position is going to be different. It's going to be maybe a more fast-paced, on your feet type of position, needing to do multiple things at the same time. So you most likely had that experience as a server with meeting the needs of various tables. So that might be something you pull in there. Manage the needs of several people in fast-paced environment and complete various tasks simultaneously while remaining detail-oriented. So again, you're not embellishing, you're not lying about your skills whatsoever, but you are customizing what is applicable to each one of these kinds of positions depending on what they're looking for and asking for. Again, if you have questions, we can go back, delve in a little bit deeper if need be, but we will keep going for right now. The next thing I want to kind of go in a little bit is this quantify your bullet points. All right, so that goes back to the recreation part where I said they added the numbers. All right, adding numbers, no matter your field, can make a huge difference. It makes your skill more distinguished. It gives parameters to what the reader is seeing and how they're interpreting what you were able to do at your other job. Even if people think, well, I didn't work that much with money, or I didn't what kind of numbers are you looking for? You can still add numbers even if you have more soft skills or you worked in a more people-focused field. You don't have to be all about knowing your revenue streams or how much money you saved a company or brought into a company. If that is your field and you have those numbers to work with, fantastic, use them. But if you've got more of the soft skills, you're going to be looking for finding ways to quantify range, frequency, and scale. Now, if you have those like the hard numbers, so let's just take a look at, if person A says duties included taking biometric measurements, maintaining records, setting up tracking data, and working on writing team to submit publications for review and approval. Person B, same exact experience, same exact duties, but they worded it as collected biometric measurements of 632 park participants during spring 2014, showing a 30% increase in data collection from 2013. Analyzed data with 2 peer-reviewed articles accepted and published in the Journal of Obesity and Health. Okay, so already this person, by adding those numbers, gave more insight and will be able to stick out to the reader more than just those generic, solely relying on words. And so this next one. So if we're focusing again on those soft skills, though, we're going to look first at range. Where can you add numbers to distinguish a range? So responsible for supervising graduate students, undergraduate interns across several sites. All right. But again, doesn't really give me anything. Are you supervising one graduate student, 300? Like where, several sites? What does that mean? So instead, you might say supervise 10 to 12 graduate students. That's a range. Okay. It's not as specific. I had exactly, 11 grad students. You had between 10 and 12 on average. And around in between 50 to 75 undergraduate interns at a time across 5 sites. All right, so again, range, you don't have to have the specifics, but a general idea of that number. The next one would be frequency. So completed first read through of manuscript drafts. So again, focusing more on the duty, what did you do, doesn't really give me anything, but you have the opportunity to add a number in here and quantify your skill. Something as simple as saying reviewed and evaluated, again, a range, 20 to 25 manuscripts, overviews per week, and made the decision to pass on to main editorial team or send back to author with feedback. So the frequency is telling me, okay, how often did this person do this task? How often did you evaluate manuscripts? How often did you do policy reviews? How often did you go out into the field and collect samples? How often did you, do inspections on lab equipment? How often did you go and clean? Like, what was that schedule? Again, how the frequency can work for various fields as a soft skill and can add those numbers relatively easily. And then we're going to talk about scale real quick. For me, scale kind of feels really similar to range, and I had a harder time just kind of distinguishing it because when I was first learning it. So the way that I like to think about scale is that it's about the impact that you're making or bringing to a company, something that you did or accomplished, the level that you did that at. So again, if you have the numbers and you're like, it's about the bottom line. So if you're in a data-driven, numbers-driven industry, scale is going to probably work out really well for you. Streamlined process through updated software system and analysis program doesn't tell me anything. But if you tell me that you managed a project that upgraded software system, ultimately saving $100,000 to $200,000 on a yearly basis, my goodness, you just told me that type of impact that you made right off the bat. So be thinking about that. And again, if you're like, but what about a soft skill? Think about impacts that you've made. So if you chaired the annual fundraiser committee, you had 12 members, you organized and hosted for, again, a range of 40 to 60 vendors and guests, you raise a certain amount of money, you're kind of combining ranges, frequencies, but you're picking and focusing in on something where you made an impact. It doesn't have to be super number-driven, data-driven quantification, but any time that you can add and give that reader something that puts you above the next person, definitely slip it in there. So that leads us to our last and final mistake, and that is not using action verbs. So what are action verbs? All right, important. They do not replace your keywords. Again, your keywords is that language that ties your resume to your job posting. All right, Action verbs do not replace that. They are usually the first word in your bullet points. So again, this is something super, super simple that you can do without a whole lot of extra effort, because you can just go onto Google and research, easily research, click on multiple, like list alphabeticalized list of words that are considered action verbs and just switch it out. They're super subtle, but very, very impactful for your reader. So this is a really easy upgrade for your resume. And examples. So spearheaded project, instead of oversaw project, supervised, spearheaded gets a little bit more of the eyebrow raise. Advocated for clients, updated is a positive action word, and contributed. So those are examples of ones not as frequently used, but again, you can go through and find a list in different categories alphabetically and find those words to just swap out with yours. I threw this in here because I really like this list. There is a thing, there's kind of a topic now too. Action words are like the step up is going to be success verbs. So they're still action verbs, but these are words that basically imply success happening, your action being successful. So that positive connection for that reader. So there's different ways to look at it, but action verb at a minimum, and if you can, throw in the success verb, hey, props to you. So I like this list just as an extra and threw that in there. And so that's wrapping things up. Again, I'm weird. I really like editing. I like grammar. I like punctuation. So I like that. Now, a lot of people don't, and that's not something that comes as easily. Or what happens is we look at something that we've written and it makes sense because in our heads, we know exactly what we meant to put on that paper. So it can be hard for our brains to catch grammar errors or spelling errors, punctuation errors. So, this is where, at the very least, read your resume over out loud. Reading things out loud can help you figure out where there's a mistake and catch it and fix it. If you have someone at a minimum that you trust that can look over it for you, do that. But if writing is not something or grammar is not something that you feel really strongly about, seeking out additional support in that area is definitely important, because it's that quick for you to get just put straight into that no pile for something so simple. So those are a couple of services that I do. Obviously, we talked last week. I help people with cover letters, resumes, quite a bit. But I also want to point out that editing and proofreading are different services. So if ever you reach out to me or somebody else in the industry, just make sure that you know the difference between editing and proofreading services for your grammar. So proofreading is going to be you're providing that person with your final draft. Here's my resume. I'm 99.9% sure it's as perfect as it's going to get. Can you just look over and make sure that I haven't overlooked any formatting or any grammar mistakes, punctuation errors, any of those itty bitty things. Editing is different. Editing is like the in-between process to get it to the proofreading stage. That's where if you ask someone to edit, they switch around, gives leeway to move things around, reword, restructure. It's definitely a different platform. So again, just wanted to kind of clarify that with you, because a lot of people will have those types of questions, especially when they're asking for support with resume writing and cover letters. So with that, I will open it up. I don't know. I think we're doing okay on time. But I just want to open the floor up to anyone who has some questions. I'm gonna put you guys. Any questions today or from last week?
I do have a question. So I know we talked about the past tense and the present tense. But should it doesn't matter? Like, say I did something in like 2019 and then it ended there, and then I'm doing something else in 2020. Like, is everything supposed to be past tense, or is everything supposed to be present tense? Like, do you pick either or?
If you're presently employed at a job, you can use the present tense. What you don't want to do is switch tenses in the same job. So say you've got some past experience at a restaurant, sticking with with the server example. You'd want to keep it past tense on all of your bullet points underneath that. You don't want to be switching between present tense and past tense within that same area. If you're presently employed, you can use present tense for that and then past tense for the others. But just make sure you're not mixing them within that same job heading. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Thanks for that question. Did anyone remember homophones right off the bat?
No, you had to jog my memory about what they meant.
Yep. I was gonna say, if you guys all remembered it, props to you, because I think that's like taught in second grade, so it's quite a review. There's a lot of information to throw at you guys all at once, so take your time. I heard someone though.
Do you put like research on your resume? Can you put that on there that you've done?
Yeah, so you can definitely put a header. And again, this goes back to last week and making sure that you find that format that works best for you. And so you can pick which headers are going to be the most helpful for what you want to put on your resume. So you can even do a whole like research focused or project focused section of your resume and put a couple things in there. So especially if you're, in school still or freshly graduated, that's definitely something that you can put in there at that time. Anyone else? Does anyone feel particularly like this, like, how do you guys feel about grammar and punctuation in general?
I have a question. I know this might be outside of like the realm of things, but I find that there are more women, more females who tend to write resumes, whether it's for them or for like their significant others. So how can we encourage males to really, I guess, take ownership of their own resumes, and like how can we reach the male demographic to
Well,
make it if that makes sense?
No, that's a really interesting question and observation, because I think, yeah, I think that very interesting observation. I think for a lot, resumes feel very daunting and general, and they are heavily focused on, obviously, on your writing abilities and your organizational skills, and so I think that can feel really intimidating, and sometimes not even spaces that young men have really been invited to, or feel comfortable in. So I think there's just, I don't really know if I have an answer for how do we. I think the one-on-one conversations can be powerful, obviously, but that is definitely a shift I think that needs to happen on just a larger scale of, you know, I think girls just in general writing in general is seen as more feminine. Writing a journal, oh, that's girly, and so things associated with heavily with reading and or writing sometimes aren't considered. Their men don't really enter into that as well, and unfortunately that could be very well crossing over into this career line of resumes, because of the skill sets that it's tied to. But it is really, really important because obviously it's the same thing. They need to be entering into the workforce with just as strong as resumes, for whatever it is that they're seeking. And so I think just sharing the importance and just kind of, putting it out in that conversation of how quick you can get turned down from a resume, and just educating on the importance of knowing the skill sets to get through the various challenges is what those conversations just need to happen more of. But that's a really interesting conversation. I know I'm gonna be thinking about that for the next week. So if I think of anything additional, but now you got my mind all going different directions and hypothesizing. So I love that. Thank you. To think more on that.
I think it's a
Absolutely.
matter of just like introducing the information in like circles that the guys are already at. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
literally just meeting them where they are.
Yep.
I think because like I don't think like generally if we say resume and cover letter thing, they probably won't be interested. But if
Mhm.
we're talking about something they're interested in, whether that be like athletics or whatever they're interested in, and like kind of like infusing that with this would be good, I think.
Absolutely. Yeah, when I was trying to think when I work, because a lot of my background is with teen programs. And so I think, with when I used to teach just on the teen level, with it was really tying it to what they were interested in, not necessarily promoting it as just a resume or writing, but tying it directly into an interest that they were into. Um, and a lot of it just, well, do you want to make more money? Well, then, and that was like, oh yeah, well, you have to keep working out that resume, and stuff like that, and being aware of the field, but definitely tying it to those things that they're interested in. Yeah. Thank you for that too, Christine.
So I have another question. Sorry.
No,
Um,
love it.
so what would you say, like, I guess in like your 5 top words or phrases that you should stay away from when creating a resume? I know, I don't know, like
Mm-hmm.
sometimes like when I'm looking at, or I did my resume in the past, I might say utilize, or I'm trying to like think of other transitional words to kind of help, you know what I mean? So what
Yeah.
would you say like your 5 top words or phrases to kind of stay away from on a resume?
So there's not really a words that I would say stay away from, necessarily. Is the catch is if it's an action verb, you're already ahead of somebody else. But if it's a word that came relatively easily to you, like utilized or supervised or oversaw, those words are just, they're kind of bland. Like if you thought of it pretty easily, then maybe it's worth looking at one of the lists and going, how can I spice it up a little bit and take it the next level up. Words that I would kind of, so in terms of like action verbs, again, you put in even the most basic action verb and you are already ahead of the next person. So I wouldn't say you can't use it, but use your resources, and just honestly, a simple little Google search for action verbs is going to pop up with tons of lists that you can just skim over and see which are applicable or sound right with the sentence that you did. What I would say as far as things to avoid, like word wise on your resumes, I think contractions. I didn't put this in here, but contractions. So don't or isn't, can't. None of those are necessarily the words that you would use because they're a little bit more negatively based, or can't and don't or things like that. But spell those words out. It just looks more professional. So if you can avoid I'm, any of the contractions, I would avoid that because it makes your writing look more professional. And it just, again, it reads nicer. The other thing to avoid is when you're reading it, again, take each time you see the word the or that, read your sentence, and if you can get rid of the and that, then take it out, because those are super commonly used filler words. They take up space and they're not necessary for your writing. And so again, you can cut out and make it more concise for your resume if you take out words that are not of significance. And the and that are two of the most overly used filler words out there. So again, action verbs don't really have a top 5 or anything like that, but if you can take it to the next level, use your resources, but definitely do try to avoid contracts and or contractions and the thes and that's if you can. Those are the 2 areas I would say avoid.
Thank you.
Of course, great question. Does anyone, I'm jumping ahead, but does anyone have any questions or things next week that you are, or for like cover letters that you're already like, oh, I hope we go over this? If you have any like specific things that you want or questions that you want to make sure are covered next week in cover letters, you know, feel free, or something comes up, feel free to drop me an email. If you know right now, you can go ahead and put it in the chat and I'll take note of that. And just make sure that it's definitely worked into the presentation for next week if there's something that you're thinking about. So yeah. Has anyone started or been reviewing their resume at this point? Actively making changes?
I haven't reviewed it, but I definitely have been thinking about like adding things to it, like and taking away things off of my.
Yeah. Okay. If you have started kind of reviewing or working on a resume, if there's time in next week's presentation, or if I'm able to kind of add it, I don't have to include your name or anything, but you know, I can even kind of give some pointers or review certain sections of a resume, just if you have a certain question or things like that, just to kind of make it a little bit more interactive as well, and just kind of tie everything together. So give that some thought if that's something you've been working on, and we can go from there. All right. Well, I really appreciate everyone joining in and just asking some questions and being here tonight. I really appreciate it. I hope that we covered, because I know that last week we had a lot of questions on the specifics of language. So I hope that today kind of clarified a little bit of that, and helped with ways that you can just spruce up your resume with your word choice and things to avoid, like your punctuation, your grammar errors, things of that nature. I hope that helped.
I have one question. I have an individual here. He's actually inquiring about creating a resume. He just want to know what your ranges are for your resume services.
Oh yeah, well that's I would send an email because I'm giving discounts. And so it just kind of depends on what you're looking for. Like if I do packages in terms of you know, if you want a cover letter and a resume, if you just want it proofread, then that's totally different. So it just really depends on what stage you're at and what kind of support. If you want some one-on-one, really like working out, you know, and learning the ins and outs of that resume again on a one-on-one basis, I do that as well. So definitely I can put my information back up here, and feel free to email or that was not the right way to do that. Hold on. Email me or my phone number. Let me know that you were in on this class. You get a discount. And then we just kind of figure out what exactly it is that you're looking for and needing support with and go from there. But it's very individualized for what you want and need, for sure. But I would love to be there to support. So. Thank you for your interest, though. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Of course. Christine, I don't know if there's any other final.
Well, thank you everyone for joining. Thanks again, Caitlin. Stay tuned for our next workshop.
Yes, but just Friday already. So I'm looking forward to seeing you guys then.
Thank you. Have a wonderful rest of the day.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
What?